How you feeling, man? You seem stressed.
Me? Stress?
Yeah.
Never.
You,
Never.
I feel like this show is already getting to you.
It is because it's like it's got some stuff going on that Marvel you have been playing with us, bro. Like you just a yo-yo manipulation, chess. Sometimes I want to smack the writers because you guys make me feel like y'all on a straight streak of terrible shows, which we would not name some drop. And then you bring a masterpiece like this in the first episode, in the first 20 minutes, have me question everything I watch in prior movies. You suck.
So you're already calling this a masterpice?
Yes, I am. I'm calling masterpiece.
Well, less than a minute in, and
I'm
we're
calling
already
it.
with the hot takes.
Let's
Welcome
go.
back, everybody, to another episode of the New Block Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Chris, aka Prince, with the homie Duran, aka Medic Grizzly. Duran, how you doing, bro? Besides being stressed out about Secret Invasion.
I'm cool. I'm cool. Now I mean, just ready to get some things off my chest a little bit. How you
Yeah,
feeling, bro?
I hear. I feel great. I feel great. I'm locked in. This was episode 1 of Secret Invasion that dropped last Wednesday.
Yes.
I knew it was gonna be like very much like political thriller. I love that right off the bat we get a Skrull posing as Agent Ross, which I told my wife this after we watched it. I was like, in hindsight, we should have known Everett Ross was a Skrull to begin with, because last time we saw him, he was supposed to be going to jail, but got broken out of the transport by Okoye.
Talk. Come on. Keep on.
So Agent Ross isn't supposed to. He's technically a fugitive of the United States government right now. So the second we saw him, we should have been like, wait a minute, we should have known. But
exactly.
But that's
first
fine.
of all,
They started it off well, and like they just went and introduced us to the idea and like what this looks like in practice. You know what I mean, with the Skrulls invading. But go ahead.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, New Block Nerds podcast. Subscribe, tell your friend, tell your mama, tell everybody. We love you guys. We're going to spoil the mess out of this. It's happened Wednesday. It's going to be done. So first of all, why did I not think about that? He was arrested. He's a fugitive. So when I saw it, I'm intrigued. Like, yo, this is Ross. Working undercover. Ross is not there, dude. Like, that's how much Marvel I don't like you right now. You had me thinking Ross was there, and when Ross fell down, I was like, no, what? Like, he's done like that, and that wasn't him. And roller coaster of emotions started from that moment right there. Marvel execs, we got some words.
This series is interesting because it calls so many things into question about who's been where when. And throughout the episode, a lot of people, like a lot of the characters, were having dialogue with Nick Fury, talking about how the blip changed him and how he's not the same and he's out of his element and blah blah blah. I think that's all kind of like a red herring. Like I think, like I don't think the Nick Fury that we see is the Skrull. Like that would be too easy, right? I feel like for them having this series and saying, "Oh, Nick Fury was a Skrull the whole time." I do think it'll be revealed that. I mean, it already has been revealed that like he's had Skrulls, play his role for him when it was convenient. But yeah, I mean, I think they're just trying to throw us off the scent here. I think there are definitely a lot of other Skrulls in their inner circle, and I'm just interested to see like how this whole mystery is going to play out with like the next couple of episodes.
So this is when Marvel's gets kind of messy, kind of junky a little bit with the ownership versus comic books, because Sword and also Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show dabbled a little bit with some of these things. And then you have it called the Saber Station, what they do in this one. Cool, no problem. We're just going to say he was in space for the time being, and that Thanos messed his whole mind up. You see he had a flashback, and then it seems like Nick was just a shell of himself. And I think this is actual Nick Fury now coming down. Like you said, Talos was popping in here and there, trying to be like he was. Hill had a Skrull at times as well. I enjoyed like you said, the emotional thriller of this, because the pacing was it just basically showed that Nick, you're not, you're supposed to be like ahead of everybody, and you're not. Like you are this. It shows you were in space. Like you don't know what the hell's going on down here at all. Like go
Right.
back. Like even the young lady was like, "Yo, like bro, you would have knew my goons would be there." And Nick's response was, of course, clever response. I wanted you to catch me, but in hindsight, it's like, bro, Nick wouldn't get caught like that. He would have popped up in a room and said, "Yo, let's talk." Like just things like that. And then seeing how things are moving, how he's limping when he first got off the freaking Star Trek Beam Me Down type vibe. It
Yeah.
just everything about him is like he's rusty.
But here's the thing about, and I thought about that too. Here's the thing about Nick Fury though.
Mm-hmm.
Could this all just be a ruse?
You know what?
Because if we know anything about Nick Fury, and of course people can change, but if we know anything about him, is that he is highly, highly, highly calculated and keeps
True.
things very, very close to the chest. So like, and we've seen him get out of worse situations.
I don't think it's a ruse. I think this one, even though I think it towards the end, I think it will be he's back on his game, back on his high horse. But right now, it's the element of like showing that he doesn't have the answers right away, that he is out this game. So it makes you like, and Gravik apparently there's gonna be more emotion to this because Gravik apparently there's a personal connection. Like him coming down wasn't just for Ross. Like he had to know Ross was a fugitive. He had to know Ross was a fugitive. So like if anybody knows, it's him. So I feel like there's a little more we're going to see in it later, and then you're seeing like Talos' daughter, Emilia Clarke, Dragon. You do Game of Thrones. There's a lot of Game of Thrones characters in this freaking episode
coming into the MCU.
Yeah, which is really, really cool.
Well, and the guy who the Skrull impersonating Agent Ross, the guy that he killed was Beric Dondarrion from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So it's just thrown out. I'm like, it's cool to see like you gotta know his voice. When he starts speaking, you know that man's voice, and he played his part very well. And then you also see how like he had to leave the office, was concerned about everyone around, who to trust, not to trust. And then you see him spiral out within the middle of a conversation that everything he said was really true. That you don't know who to or any of those things happening. And then seeing the like Taylor's being like he was part of the Union and how it's been 30 years since Captain Marvel. And how they made the promise that you were going to find them a new world, and you haven't. So you're talking about all the Avengers, Infinity War, Civil War, everything's happening. Y'all still haven't found this person, a new planet. Of course, they're going to be rebels.
And we've seen Captain Marvel on Earth once in the last 30 years.
They did. They mentioned that she abandoned her.
Yeah. So, and that's an interesting wrinkle, like to this story, right? Because we know Nick Fury has that history with them from decades ago. And you understand like why some faction or some groups within like the Skrull community would feel this way, right? Because it's like, look, we've been on the run from the Kree for however long they've been at war with them. We finally find some refuge and you guys promise us that you're going to do right by us and you haven't. And a lot has gone down in that time. So, so you have a certain faction of the Skrulls that are just like, basically they've hit, frankly, fuck it mode. And they're just like, well, we'll just take this planet then.
And they've learned from how humans are. Humans always have conflict, always have war. So it's crazy how like real world situations kind of play in sometimes with TV shows because like these TV shows are written a long time ago. You would think like a year, 2 years before the real life Russian war was happening. And then you have the Russia versus US and how they're trying to use triggers. And then most people are like, wow, real life things happening and how they can live on nuclear plants and we can't. So they're pretty much going to use us against each other to get what they want. Like that's like a brilliant plan. And it's just how you shows how like you adapt, you overcome, and you do what you gotta do to get what you want. You have broken promises. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take your planet.
Yeah, basically. So I want to ask you a question about like some of the Skrulls' abilities. It's clear that they have at least a little bit of like enhanced durability and strength because you saw Talos like rip the lock off the gate. But the more intriguing thing for me is are they taking people's memories when they copy them?
Yes. So remember back in Captain Marvel, it showed them like they'll probably advance their powers later on. They actually had the ability to touch them and absorb their actual memories and their actual basically their DNA and their skin better. But the way they have it in the show, they're putting it as if it's a 2-part system, as in we duplicate their face and then we have a brainwave frequency of taking the memories away and actually showing that I am that person, which is really cool. It's something that they can do that, because you never really know. Because if you take a person for what they are right now in this moment, and then you put them in there and you have your own strategy behind it, it changes the game. Because you won't know that person's not there because there's no new memory. Like, it's based off past things they already know.
So what happens to the? I guess we'll find out later on in the series. But like, I'm wondering what happens to the people that happens to. Like, do they die? Are they just a vegetable? Like,
I think
are they a regular person still?
I think they're in pods. I really do. I think they're in pods because like there's a part of the scene. I didn't actually break down the entire Frieza scene, but I saw like other like almost pod stations back there. Either there are people that are potentially about to get swapped out, or there are people that have already been swapped out. Yeah, bro. Man. It's because you don't know who's who. Like, you really don't know. And then for question is, how long have they been doing this? Because we can go back to WandaVision. We can go back there and like towards the post credits of that, and how the Marvels are being basically set up to be a decent movie, and how the Saber Station is played with that, and how they're all pretty much under Nick Fury now. So they had to show the importance of the Echo Saber Station. And then you bring them back down. Then you mentioned the Marvels abandon them. The next movies come to Marvels. They have been plotting this out for years, man.
Right. And so I guess my first question is, well, who do you think from episode 1 that we saw who do you think could be a Skrull? Like, who do you think are the best candidates to be Skrulls?
War Machine off the bat, I think, is a Skrull. I
think the president's a Skrull.
Okay, why? Tell me why. I got to counter that because I don't think he is yet.
Okay, so I think he's a Skrull because, number one, why wouldn't you want to impersonate the U.S. president? If your goal is, you want to take over. He mentioned something about when Rhodey brought up that like Nick Fury was back.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, he's the president. He needs to be in the know, but also feel like this is something, just given the nature of Nick Fury's work, that the president is probably not usually briefed on in the middle of a hallway. Right. So like, I feel like that, and like the way that he reacted to it, like he was very adamant about like getting it handled quickly and quietly. Like, why? Like, if you are the U.S. president, Nick Fury is literally a war hero.
I get it. I see it. I see your theory. I think that's the reason why I think War Machine is a Skrull. I think he's trying to stir the pot up even more. So I think they're going to end up switching the president out with a real Skrull and start this massive war. I think that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I really do think they're going to plot to exchange the president, and they're going to use War Machine as the ace to get inside. They already have people inside the government. They already showed, for instance, Maria Hill. When you saw her, did you think that was a real Hill at first? I didn't know. I didn't know if that was, but they mentioned how like Talos' wife was killed by gravity. Yeah. Dang. And then explains why Emilia Clarke became who she was, because she had broken promises. She didn't know her mom was killed and the way by the people they thought he got killed by. It's a lot of backdoor scheming going on that you can't trust anybody. And just that happening, like the emotional rain that's going to happen. And this even thing about Gravik. Just think about him right now. This man, through the course of the actual episode, was basically popping up and spying on Nick Fury. To the point that at the end of the episode, he was changing out from the little girl with the ball to the girl that was on the bench to the guy he talked to inside the pub. And he changed all these characters to let you know, I know who you're talking to, bro. I'm here.
That's a great theory. I wonder if all those people were just like a network of Skrulls to spy on Nick Fury, or if it's all one person.
I think it was Gravik. I think it was him. I really do. I think it was him. I really think that he's out there doing work, because I think there's a personal connection. We don't know yet, but there's something about that. Could we get Nick Fury's wife next? No one talks about Nick Fury's wife.
Well, before we get there, like they mentioned something, or they kind of insinuated it when Nick Fury comes down and he sees Talos for the first time. They're talking about, the whole 30-year history and everything like that. And I think it was pretty known, or they made it known that Nick Fury and Talos, they know Gravik from way back when.
Yes.
Like they were clearly friends and comrades at some point, right? And obviously Gravik has chosen to go kind of off the rails a little bit, but Gravik being responsible for Gaia's death, or Gaia's mom's death, who was Talos' daughter, we know. I'm interested to see like what happened there, because everyone seems to know that Gravik killed her mom except her, because otherwise I don't think she'd be working with him if she knew.
Exactly. I feel like he plot and was like playing both roles to get her to swing.
Right.
And of course, that was like what broke the camel's back. Something happened to that. I just love. Well, this might get me in trouble when I say this. Every time we watch a movie, bro, we watch any television series, the bad guy takes freaking forever to push the darn button. All right. He wants to give a freaking essay. I want to do this. I want to dance. I want that. My man was so cynical and cerebral. He's like, yeah, by the way, boom, you're done. Everybody here's out of here. On top of that, Hill, I'm laughing at you, Nick Fury, because you can't control this. I'm also going to change to you and I'm going to body Hill. You think Hill's dead? You think she's really gone?
I don't know, because here's the thing. They took Nick Fury away before,
Yeah.
I'm holding out judgment. I think.
Okay.
I don't know. That's the thing that I love about this show. Why I was so excited about this show is it's just the thriller aspect of it. It's just like what we saw. Did we really just see what we think we saw, or is this another kind of cover up? Because who's to say that's even Hill and it's not a Skrull?
She was giving Nick the business playing chess, bro. Like she was giving the business. That's her. Like she was giving him real emotional. Like, yo, I'm not feeling you right now, bro. Like you've been doing some stuff. You abandoned us. You didn't come. That was her. I think that was her. And like,
well, yeah,
him.
Especially like when they met in that bar or whatever. Like that doesn't seem like something that someone else could learn easily about Maria Hill.
Yes, like she was her.
And maybe, and if it really was her, and I do think that it was, but I think really her death was just to show us very early on that like, hey, this is serious. Like they're not. I mean, day one, Nick Fury's back on Earth from being off Earth for several years, and Maria Hill gets popped.
And she's been in since all the movies, bro. Like we talking about.
Yeah.
It's just been
so.
And the fact of how it happened, I'm gonna change to your right hand man, and I'm gonna body you, and then I'm gonna laugh about it. You don't see that in the first episode of the actual series. The decoy bags, like everything else. Normally, it's the good guy wins. It doesn't happen this way.
Yeah. That was great, and I'm looking forward to more kind of diversions and ruses like that, like swapping out the bags and stuff like that. But again, if we know anything about Nick Fury, we know. I mean, he's gonna learn from this. I swear to you, by the end of this series, we're going to be sitting here saying that Nick Fury is always playing 4-dimensional chess.
I would love to say that, but even like most common people know, Union Jack, old school comic books, like basically the lady in the red, her name, Fallsworth,
the British lady.
She's pretty much 007. So that's what they are over there, and the British intelligence. She was giving Nick the Fury. Everybody was giving Nick the business. Like, bro, what you doing, man?
I think she's a Skrull too. I'm calling it.
What you think?
Yeah, I'm calling it. Mm-hmm.
Well, you see him put the freaking eye camera on the owl. That was smooth. That was so smooth, Nick. He's like,
but that's what tells me too that maybe he was telling the truth about like I wanted them to take me so that I could get to you.
Well, they got
so
a
that
pass.
I could plant a camera in here.
They worked together back in the old days, right. Style, and it shows they both in the vintage. They both like the older people. Like you don't see Nick Fury doing a lot of action scenes right now. It's more of like the mental games of what they're playing.
Right.
I from the Creed and the Skrull War to now you have the potential of the Russia versus US war. Like it's everything. The dynamic of what is about to happen is going to be a roller coaster of emotion, and I am all for it. I am so excited. The ramifications of what's going to happen after this, Armor Wars is going to be insane. Because you don't know who's in the government. You don't know. And then the Marvels are going to be so important. Even Thunderbolts. They have to replace the president soon. Before Captain America 4, they have to replace him. So it's going to happen here?
That's true. I think the president's going to die in this.
Okay. I'm with you on that.
Because here's the thing. Like, I'm thinking about Secret Invasion comics and how it led into, Thunderbolts. And there's a couple of characters that they don't have right now, but we'll get to that, I'm sure, in another episode.
They will.
But I'm just thinking, like, where is this gonna, like, what is this gonna lead into? Because, like you said, we're gonna get Thunderbolts, which means Thunderbolt Ross is gonna be the president, or at least he was in the comics. I'm hoping it's gonna be the same way in the movie, which means things are gonna get a lot worse by the fallout of Secret Invasion before they get any better, right? And it's so exciting because it's one of those shows where, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know who you can trust. You don't know who's who, what information is valid, what is phony, who's setting you up like in a trap, because you don't even know who you're talking to. So, like, I'm excited. This has been one of my most anticipated shows, like, for the whole year, because of the very, like, Winter Soldiery kind of feel to it. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I think that this is why Marvel's superior, bro. And this is my thoughts and opinion about it. They are taking what some would say was the strongest, wittiest character in the MCU, and right before your eyes, breaking him down and putting him by himself, alone. It's showing how, like, this man who once had a monster team in S.H.I.E.L.D., once had a monster team in the Avengers, even said his midlife crisis was the Avengers. He doesn't have any of that anymore. It's showing who Nick Fury is, of the essence, and going to basically tear him down. And it's going to redemption arc. Of course, he's going to come back, but it's going to show you how brittle the MCU government is, as far as the government for them. They don't have anything. So the infrastructure was going to happen. It can be taken over by massive villains, and the chain reaction of people not. You got to think about this. If they can't trust you now, think about, like, movies in the future, like Civil War II, everything. Like, it's going to be some problems because of what's going to happen right now.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, about, like, how after the events of Endgame, like, we're still feeling those effects because everyone is still dispersed. People are in different timelines, and, like, there's no real, like, Avengers team right now.
Yes.
Right. So everything's in disarray. This is still, I mean, what followed up with Civil War was Infinity War and Endgame, right? So, like, they came from the Sokovia Accords, the people who were in camp with Thunderbolt Ross. They're still ticked off about the Soviet Accords and everything that went down. We just haven't had time in the MCU to really deal with the fallout of that politically, because we jumped right into Infinity War and Endgame. It was like, look, the U.S. government politics can wait while we go save the universe.
And she mentioned that. She's like, I'm still mad for you destroying my city. Like, there's still, like, the ripple effects of these things, the slide, like, conversations. They know, like, bro, like, we don't trust you guys no matter what.
Right. So, and now that I'm sorry, and now that, like, the Avengers are gone, all these people who have, other than, benevolent means in the government and governments of the world, now all of a sudden there's a power vacuum. Nick Fury's been off Earth for several years. There are no Avengers left, any ones to really ride home about, anyways.
This might sound crazy, bro. My prediction is there's not a happy ending to this series.
I don't think so either.
I think it's going to be where the government's completely in shambles, and I think Nick Fury is going to be to blame. I think he's going to be the person that's going to make him go back into space, and which makes him go up there and do different things, because no one's going to want him back on Earth anymore, because Thunderbolt Ross and everybody's to take over. I think he's going to try to slowly build the Avengers back up once the change happens and it shadows again, but he's never going to be back to where he was.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think less of a not happy ending and more of just like this is leading directly into Thunderbolts or the Marvels or something like that, right? Because there's just because like in the comics, Secret Invasion leads to a lot of this stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very interested to see how they're gonna adapt that and if they're gonna introduce any new characters that we haven't seen yet.
And it's so New Black Nerds, this is something different we're doing. We did Normal Friday podcast, then we add Thrones to it. We're doing Thrones on Tuesdays. For this series, bro, we're going to drop on Mondays. We're going to drop the Monday after the episode and review it and let you guys know what's going on. So my question for you, Prince, who's going to die next episode? Somebody got to die.
You think there will be that much death in this series? Because there's only like I think 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So someone will die every episode.
It may not be a major figure, but let's say if you think I think the president might die later on. I don't think he's going to die right away.
I think he's going to die later on too.
Or who else you think's going to pop in the episode that we didn't think's going to happen? Special guest.
Oh. Well, this is getting maybe far ahead, and we talked about this before on a previous pod. But in the Secret Invasion comic, the person who pretty much gets credit for taking out the Skrulls is Norman Osborn.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they have any plans to introduce Norman Osborn or if they'll change that into someone else in the series. Like if they just if like Thunderbolt Ross uses that as a preface to run for office after this president is kaput. But I think this president is not long for the world. If we're going to have President Thunderbolt Ross, this guy's got to die.
I think they're going to replace the origin of Norman Osborn and him saying that he killed the last Skrull, and they're going to make it the Thunderbolt. I think they're going to use Val and Thunder Ross, and they're going to actually use that as a Cadius to get him to be the president, which is why Nick is going to run away. Like, well, you won't say run away, but it's no reason for him to be down there anymore because the structure is destroyed, and he has no idea who to trust anymore. Do you think that Hill is going to be replaced by Talos' daughter, and that she becomes a new right-hand man or right woman? Like,
I could see that.
Okay,
I could see that because I do think that there's already signs that I think she's going to switch sides.
Yeah,
and go to her father's side, especially as soon as she finds out that Gravik killed her mom. But I also think, aside from that, I think that she is conflicted, surely, about their methods of. Like, I think she still wants that goal of them, what they call home in their own skin, but she doesn't want to kill a bunch of innocent people to get to it. And I think that's going to ultimately be the wedge that like gets her away from Gravik's camp. And I think that is when the quote unquote good guys are going to start winning this fight, is when she switches over, because she seems to be kind of like that piece in the middle that you have Nick Fury and Talos, and you have Gravik and all his folks, and you've got her right there in the middle, still trying to decide which side she wants to be on.
I'm gonna say the last thing before I wrap it up real quick for you. My crazy dark horse prediction is Wakanda plays a part in this, and Ross comes back.
Okay.
I think there's gonna be a point where like Nick Fury's gonna be down the dumps, and then the music change, the settings, and then he walks back in and hey, I'm still alive, and that wasn't me. And I think it's gonna change the whole dynamic because of their actual team and their resources to actually find out who a Skrull is. Because we don't know, there's gonna be some kind of way to find out if you're a Skrull or not a Skrull. And I feel like they're gonna make it for the audience a way to tell a difference. Eventually, that's what I think.
I mean,
who has the best technology for that? Who has the best technology?
That's true. Yeah, but I also think, like, to your point about Nick Fury being without any resources, I think is the reason I would most likely disagree with that theory.
Okay,
only because I think this is more of a grounded human level story more than it is about like who's got the best tech or who's got the biggest gun. Like, that's not how this fight's going to be won. It's going to be who's who has the best information and who used that information to the best of their ability. It'll be very much a Game of Thronesy Littlefinger type of play that's gonna win for either side, I think.
I can't wait for episode 2.
I can't wait for episode 2.
A couple days away.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us as we reviewed episode 1 of Secret Invasion. Definitely check out episode 2 this upcoming Wednesday. We'll be back the following Monday to review episode 2. Let us know your guys' theories. Would love to know who you guys think is a secret scroll, or what Avengers have been scrolls this whole time that we did not know. I got a couple theories, but I'm sure we'll talk about it as we get through this season. So I've been Prince. Deron, it's a pleasure as always, bro.
We out.